creating beautiful geometrical solutions to mathematical problems whose full algebraic solutions would not be found for another 400 years. In the 14th century, Chaucer wrote both the Canterbury Tales and a treatise on the astrolabe. There are innumerable such examples, not least that of Lewis Carroll, who, of course, was a mathematician first and author second. But there's a deeper reason why we find mathematics at the heart of literature. The universe is full of underlying structure, pattern, and regularity, and mathematics is the best tool we have for understanding it. That's why mathematics is often called the language of the universe, and why it's so vital to science. Since we humans are part of the universe, it is only natural that our forms of creative expression, literature among them, will also manifest an inclination for pattern and structure. Mathematics, then, is the key to an entirely different perspective on literature. As a mathematician, I can help you see it too. I've always loved patterns, whether that's patterns of words, numbers, or shapes. I've loved patterns since before I knew that what I was doing was mathematics. Gradually, it became clear that I was going to be a mathematician, but that came with consequences. In the British education system in recent decades, mathematics has come to be treated exclusively as a science subject, far removed from the humanities. If you want to study mathematics after the age of 16, you probably have to pick the science stream. At the end of my very last English class at school in 1991, the teacher gave me a lovely handwritten note with a long list of books she thought I might like, saying, "Sorry to lose you to the lab." I was sorry to be considered lost too. But I wasn't lost, and if you've ever had to choose one subject over another, you aren't lost either. I love language. I love the way words fit together. I love the way that fiction, like mathematics, can create, play with and test the limits of imaginary worlds. I went off to Oxford to study mathematics, very happy to be living one street away from the pub where my childhood literary heroes, C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, had met each week to discuss their work. After completing a master's degree and PhD in Manchester in the north of England, I moved to London for a job at Birkbeck, one of the colleges of the University of London, in 2004, and became a full professor there in 2013. During all this time, although my day job, so to speak, has been teaching and research, mainly in the area of abstract algebra known as group theory, I became increasingly interested in the history of mathematics, particularly in how mathematics is part of our broader cultural experience. I've always felt that what I do as a mathematician fits in with other creative arts like literature or music. Good mathematics, like good writing, involves an inherent appreciation of structure, rhythm and pattern. That feeling we get when we read a great novel or perfect sonnet, that here is a beautiful thing with all the component parts fitting together perfectly in a harmonious whole, is the same feeling a mathematician experiences when reading a beautiful proof. The mathematician G.H. Hardy wrote that a mathematician, like a painter or poet, is a maker of patterns. The mathematician's patterns, like the painter's or the poet's, must be beautiful. The ideas, like the colours or the words, must fit together in a harmonious way. Beauty is the first test. There is no permanent place in the world for ugly mathematics. Becoming Gresham Professor of Geometry in 2020 gave me the chance to bring together my decades of thinking about mathematics and its place in history and culture. This professorship is one of the few Tudor jobs still around. It was created in 1597 in the will of the Elizabethan courtier and financier Sir Thomas Gresham, and I'm the 33rd person and the first woman to do it. I get to give public lectures on any mathematical subject of my choosing, though fortunately it's been well over a century since professors were required to deliver each lecture twice, once in English and once in Latin. So, with being a professor of mathematics at Birkbeck, and concurrently a professor of geometry at Gresham, as well as raising two wonderful daughters, I know what you're thinking. Sarah, what do you do with all your spare time? The answer is that, as I've always done, I read, constantly and widely. The best thing about e-readers is that there are no pages to turn, which meant I could read even with a sleeping baby in my arms. That's how I finally found time to read War and Peace, which was full of mathematical surprises. Each year, my good friend Rachel and I set ourselves the challenge